Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, because this one might just define the next chapter of the American economy. The United States national debt has officially smashed through a new and terrifying milestone: $38 trillion. Yes, trillion with a T. Let's pause for a second and think about what that actually means. That's $111,000 for every man, woman, and child in the country. Imagine getting a bill in your mailbox tomorrow morning that says, "Dear taxpayer, please remit $111,000, your share of America's debt." Sounds insane, right? Well, that's the reality on paper, but it's not just the amount that's shocking, it's the speed. In just 82 days, America's debt ballooned by $1 trillion. That's $1 trillion, gone, in less than 3 months. To put that into perspective, that's like spending $12 billion every single day. You couldn't even count that fast if you tried. This pace has left economists, policymakers, and everyday Americans asking one simple question: what happens if this continues? Because the truth is, the United States is now running on borrowed time and borrowed money. So, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the national debt? In the simplest terms, it's everything the US government owes to domestic creditors, foreign governments, banks, investors, plus the interest on all that borrowing. It's the result of decades of spending more than earning. The government has basically been using a credit card that never gets paid off, buying now, promising to pay later. And now, the bill has come due. The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, has already warned that this isn't some short-term spike. No. This is structural. The debt is projected to keep rising for decades, far beyond anything the US has ever seen. Why? Because the system itself is built that way. Every single year, America runs a deficit, meaning it spends more than it brings in, and it simply adds the difference to the national tab. It's like taking out a payday loan to pay off another payday loan. Eventually, the interest alone becomes unbearable. This week, the bond market finally sent Washington a message. Moody's downgraded America's credit outlook. That's a polite way of saying, we don't trust your math anymore. Investors who buy US debt, the people financing America's spending, are demanding higher interest rates to keep lending money. The rates on 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year Treasury notes have climbed to their highest levels in years. And that's a huge warning sign, because when borrowing costs rise for the government, they rise for everyone. For your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card, your student debt. We're not just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. We're putting coal in the boiler and steering straight toward the iceberg. Now, you might think, this is a Washington problem, not mine. But here's the reality. This debt tsunami is coming straight for Main Street. Economists measure something called the debt-to-GDP ratio. That's the total debt compared to the size of the economy. Think of it this way. If you earn $50,000 a year but owe $500,000 in loans, you're in trouble. You can't grow fast enough to pay it off. That's exactly what's happening to America. Debt is rising faster than the economy. And when that happens, investors start demanding more to lend money. That means higher interest rates everywhere. Mortgage rates rise, housing becomes unaffordable. Car loans rise, fewer people buy cars. Business loans rise, companies stop expanding. Credit cards rise, families cut back on spending. It's a domino effect that touches every single corner of the economy. But there's another layer to this: the interest payments themselves. The US doesn't just owe $38 trillion, it owes interest on that $38 trillion too. And guess what? Those interest payments are now one of the largest expenses in the federal budget, rivaling defense, spending, and Medicare. That means billions, even trillions, of dollars that could be used for roads, education, healthcare, or innovation are instead being used just to pay interest on old debt. It's like paying the minimum on your credit card every month and realizing the balance never actually goes down. The US government is now spending more just on interest than it spends on many vital public programs combined. So, how did America dig this hole? It didn't happen overnight. It's the result of choices. Decades of them. 1. Social programs. Spending on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid has skyrocketed as the population ages. 2. Defense spending. Since 9/11, the US has spent trillions on 2 decades of military operations. 3. Economic crises. The The 2008 financial meltdown triggered trillions in bailouts and stimulus. 4. The pandemic. When COVID hit, the government printed and borrowed trillions more to keep the economy alive. 5. Political gridlock. Constant debt-ceiling battles, short-term spending bills, and an unwillingness to pass balanced budgets have turned dysfunction into routine. Combine those factors, and you get a perfect storm. Permanent deficits, constant borrowing, and no political will to fix it. According to the Government Accountability Office, this isn't just about numbers on a screen, it's about your daily life. If the debt keeps climbing, the effects will be everywhere. Higher interest rates on home mortgages and car loans, stagnant wages as businesses face higher costs, more expensive goods as inflation creeps back, slower economic growth as investors lose confidence, and eventually, the government may face a choice between cutting critical programs or raising taxes, neither of which voters want to hear. This is why economists call it a fiscal time bomb. The timer is ticking, but no one in Washington wants to cut the red wire. There's another danger lurking behind the curtain: inflation. When governments borrow too much, they eventually devalue their own currency. Printing money might seem like an easy solution, but it comes with a deadly price. Your paycheck and your savings lose value. We saw that during the pandemic. Stimulus checks went out, the money supply exploded, and suddenly everything cost more. Groceries, rent, gas, everything. If debt continues to grow faster than the economy, inflation could come back in waves. So, what happens if this continues unchecked? Eventually, markets could lose confidence in the United States' ability to manage its own finances. That could lead to even higher borrowing costs or, in the worst case, a fiscal crisis. And that's not a wild theory. It's happened before. In countries like Greece, Argentina, and Italy, where massive debt spiraled into chaos. Nobody ever thought it could happen to the US, the world's largest economy, the issuer of the global reserve currency. But the $38 trillion milestone is a flashing red warning light. It's telling us, America's financial foundation, long considered unshakable, is starting to crack. The good news? It's not too late. Yet. But fixing it would require something Washington hasn't shown in years: discipline, honesty, and courage. That means tough decisions, spending cuts, real tax reform, long-term budgets instead of stopgap deals. And perhaps most importantly, leaders who are willing to tell voters the truth. You can't have everything all at once, forever. The math just doesn't work anymore. Every day the US delays fixing this, the hole gets deeper and the interest bill gets bigger. At some point, the system bends so far it breaks, and when that happens, it won't just be a problem for politicians or Wall Street bankers. It'll hit the middle class, the retirees, the young families trying to buy their first home. Everyone. The American dream itself starts to erode when the dollar it's built on becomes unstable. So here we are standing on the edge of a $38 trillion cliff. The question isn't whether the debt will keep growing, it's how long it can keep growing before it grows completely out of control. The choice is clear: act now or pay later. And later might come sooner than anyone expects. What do you think? Is America heading toward a financial reckoning, or can it still turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. If you found this video informative or eye-opening, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people understand what's really happening behind those big numbers. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps important discussions like this alive. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.